pictures as opposed to other ones where, oh God. But that was really based on that idea. And to his credit, the feedback was, I have nothing but positive. Like, it was one of those things where you're asking, what am I thinking about doing? If I didn't write another one, that'd be okay, because this was such a positive experience. And it led me here and lots of other places. It was a lot of fun. Anything else? Math questions, history, science, religion?
How long did it take you to write after?
Right after I was doing it?
Yeah.
The first draft was fast, because what I had done was, for every day, I had a notebook. So I had a Thursday notebook, I had a Friday notebook, Saturday, Sunday, and I was writing everything down. So what I did was, when I got home, every night for 4 days, I pretty much locked myself in my room and wrote down everything, because I wouldn't forget it. Because you know how that goes. If you wait too long, it just kind of forget. And even then, I think I think there might be a mistake in there, because I still don't know how I did it. I was in Midland. We were having lunch in Midland, and we were going to go to Odessa. Do you know how hard it is to get lost between Midland and Odessa? They're like blind donkeys, like, yeah, I got this, don't worry. I managed to get lost. I still don't know how I did it. And I ended up going back east, because that's smart. And I went to Stanton, Texas, which is a tiny 2A school. And when I arrived there, they were having a pep rally for that night's game. And it was perfect. I was like, oh, this is great. It was total serendipity that we fell into this school, getting ready. The school's broke, right? Has no money, except it's got this beautiful athletic football field and facility. $5 million, whatever else. And they've got right adjacent to the football stadium, like behind the goalpost, is an oil derrick pumping. Like, that's perfect. So you got all these visuals. And but all those but I think I wrote it down wrong in the book. And I need to go back and check. I think I may have written down it was in the wrong direction, just to give you an idea. But what I wanted to do was get all that down. I got it all down. And then I would just slowly but surely write it I would write each part as an essay. And I think it took me about 5 or 6 months. Because, I had another job. I had 3 other jobs at the time, actually. I was teaching. And I think it took me about 5. But, it was one of those things that I don't want to mislead you into thinking, wow, he's like a construction guy working 36 hours a day. I wasn't that. I might do some on a Monday, and then I might pick it back up on a Wednesday or Sunday, and I just sort of did it when time allowed. But the big thing was, they gave me a deadline, and it was really important to me that I hit it, because I knew, as everybody in the room knows, timing is significant, that book be available for sale the minute football season started. That was my big thing. And it took a long time to lay out photographs and such like that. And the other thing too is, getting Troy Aikman getting the person for a forward is always tough, because we couldn't pay him. And the first guy I contacted was Earl Campbell, because Earl had played all 3 levels, high school, college, and pro in Texas. And a lot of people here know Earl's health isn't great. So when I called his office, his son answered. He said, send him what you want. He said, I can't guarantee anything. He said, Dad's just sort of hit or miss. And I had offered to write the forward for him, which for people might not be unaware, or might be aware or unaware of this, that happens a lot. If you see a forward by, like, I had a colleague who wrote a book, and Angelina Jolie provided the forward.
Don't tell me that.
Angelina Jolie did not write the forward.
I always read the forward.
I know. Well, you never know. Sometimes, like, Troy wrote this. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And on that one, I had to make it because he knows what he wants. He knows what I want. I want his name. And I was like, I can give him $1,500, whatever. I don't even know what we came up with. But he said, no, Dad's not interested. I'm like, oh, crap. And then I reached out to Jim Nance, who I've gotten to know a little bit, and Jim's great. But Jim was getting ready to have a baby, and I understood that. And then I thought, oh, that's Troy. And the part of it that I didn't, and he said, yeah, sure, sounds great. So he did it, great, it's phenomenal. But the publisher said, can you get Troy to do this, this, and this? I'm like, yeah, I'll totally ask him. I was not going to ask Troy Aikman to do anything like that. I was like, I got him to say yes. And I said, listen, let's get it here first before I ask him anything else. And then, don't tape this part. I never did ask him a thing after that. I did not feel comfortable asking him, because Troy is a terrific guy, but he is a professional. If you say be there at 4, you get there at 3. If he says 15 minutes, 15 minutes. But he's really good at what he does, and he's very professional. And the fact that he was nice enough to do that for me, even though he does not know me hardly at all, was very flattering, and I'm very indebted to him for that. I can't believe no one was going to ask me a question about Baylor. You did. That counts. No, that's true.
On the way over, I called a guy, and he said, see if you can find something on Sammy Baugh. And she said, who's Sammy Baugh?
Really?
Well, she's younger, and so tell her a little something about Sammy Baugh.
Sammy Baugh was a football player from Sweetwater, Texas, and he played when guys played both offense and defense. And he was initially recruited by the University of Texas because he was such a good athlete. But the head coach at Texas didn't want him to play baseball. And Sammy wanted to play baseball. So the head coach at TCU said, son, you can come here and play baseball. Because he was smart enough to recognize how good this guy was. And he was just that good. So he played at TCU for 4 years, did everything, and including doing some things that no college athlete now would ever dream of doing, including cleaning the erasers for money after class. Like he would take the erasers out and bang them together, right? That's what Sammy Baugh did. And then Sammy Baugh went on to become arguably the best player of his generation for the Washington Redskins. And he played both ways. Played safety and he played quarterback. And he also was a punter. In fact, I was going to say, I think he was probably the best punter who ever lived. He was that good of an athlete. And at a time, he was doing things that football players do and didn't do. Baseball players did, but football players do, which was he became a mainstream pop culture sort of name. He was in a Hollywood movie, he was in Western commercials. But when he was done, he was done. And he retired, and he bought a house out in West Texas with his wife in Sweetwater, which is right next to Rotan. And it's a real modest ranch home with a little mountain off in the distance, and that's where he retired. He played golf all his life. He sold cattle until his dying days, and he wouldn't come back to Fort Worth very much. They would invite him. They always invited him anywhere. The Redskins would, the Hall of Fame would, the Pro Football Hall of Fame would, TCU would. Everybody, please come. We'll pay, we'll drive. Nope. You want to come out here, that's fine. So if you ever want to go interview him, anybody was welcome. Had a little dial phone on his wall, and anybody was welcome. And it was the most charming, self-effacing, modest, humble, down-to-earth superstar you would ever meet. This guy wasn't quite Babe Ruth because football wasn't as popular as baseball was in the 30s and 40s. But in terms of impact and talent and ability, he was Babe Ruth. And he just lived a very quiet, solitary West Texas life. And it's truly, I hadn't thought about that in a while. It was truly one of the great professional privileges of my career to chance to sit down and talk with him. And one of the cool things about him was he would sign, guys sign autographs and charge money for it. So these guys would call him, say, can we come on out? He's like, yeah, sure, come on out. So they would bring a truck, like a van load of junk. Redskins, Pro Football Hall of Fame, T-shirts, TCU this. He's just sitting there signing. Well, how much? Well, whatever you think's fair. That was it. Whatever you think is fair. He didn't care. And from what I understand, well into his 80s, he was a phenomenal golfer. A guy, because he was just so athletic. But if you ever wanted to, that's sort of a crash course in who Sammy Baugh was. Thank you for asking.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anything else? I have no money. Listen, I do really want to thank you all for coming out here and supporting not only this, the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, but anybody like me who believes in sports journalism and writing about Texas football, because if it weren't for you people and the interest that you had in it, I wouldn't have a job. Now, in 3 months, I might not have a job. Anyways, so I think it's important that I get to thank you out of the way now. Thank you very much. Thank you.